From quarter-acre section to downtown apartment, suddenly hundreds of New Zealanders are making the move. In Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, apartment blocks are rising as New Zealanders take to inner-city living again. But is it getting out of control as speculators enter the market, expecting to make quick profits? Here's Michael Wilson.
I just love everything about it.
This to suburbia.
Like the nightlife.
This is pretty easy to maintain. There's no garden or anything, so it's great for me.
Whatever happened to the quarter-acre Pavlova paradise?
In a real family home, each member hopes to be able to indulge his own interests and have his own thoughts in peace.
It was good enough for generations of New Zealanders. Why are so many now snapping up inner-city apartments?
People who have bought in these projects over the past 2 or 3 years will make a very substantial capital gain.
Are we seeing a fundamental change in Kiwi lifestyle, or is it just a speculative fad which could end in heartache for hundreds of investors?
I have heard that there have been some instances where some apartments have sold for the third time off a deposit before the apartment building is complete or indeed even started. That I do view with grave concern.
I actually just sold one of the one-bedroom apartments to the tenant in that building who just loves it.
Martin Dunn is an apartment super salesman. He's probably sold more apartments than anyone else in Auckland. Young people with high incomes are a key target group.
They are excited about it. A lot of them have done the New Zealand OE and have travelled and have seen that this is a city, finally, boring city that it's been, but finally maturing in front of their eyes.
Auckland has been the happening place. The City Council wants to see 20,000 people in the city. That equates to at least 10,000 apartments. In the past 2 years, more than 700 have been built, and over the next 2 years, another 1,500 will come on stream. Initially, it was a conversion market, turning old vacant office blocks into smart new apartments.
This is a 2-bedroomed penthouse. Little balcony with a gorgeous view. You look down on the art gallery. Over it, you got the new senior college right next door to you. Little quiet cul-de-sac, but you're right in the heart of the city.
And what did this sell for?
This, about 300.
It sounds steep, but soaring labour and land costs mean profit margins are starting to be squeezed.
Some of the developers who bought in very early on, some of them have made 100% on their money, perhaps a year ago, some 50%, but now if people could make perhaps a 30% margin, that would be seen as fine, as you would be prudent to go ahead.
Just past Auckland's casino site is one of those earlier conversions, Hampton Court. The developer was David Henderson's Kitchener Group.
When we bought the building in the early 1990s, it was used for investment purposes. These apartments sold within about 6 or 8 weeks of the announcement of the casino.
And on the fringe of the city, he's finishing off another project, Charlotte Mews, located near Auckland's busy Dominion Road.
These apartments have basically been bought by younger couples and people looking for an investment.
So what price are they for these things?
Basically between $155,000 and $185,000. They're a 2-bedroom apartment with outdoor living areas, with the kitchen dining area and the lounge. You were asking me before about the road noise. It's just about non-existent.
Surprise.
David Henderson's been in the development game for years. Like many others, he was burnt by the '87 crash. But he says the apartment market shouldn't be compared to that property boom.
The difference is, one, the interest rates are at a reasonable level. They were in excess of 20% during the 80s. Inflation is under control, and thanks to a lot of manoeuvring by various governments, we've actually got a firm base to work from. When you do something, it feels solid.
We're seeing some of the same faces from the 80s. People like Chasers, Colin Reynolds are back in the market. I mean, yourself, you were involved at that era. Have those people learnt the lessons of the boom in the 80s?
The type of developers that were in the 80s, I'm quite sure that they've learned a lot of lessons from the 80s and will be far better and far more successful developers in the 90s.
And compared to the 80s, the banks are now a lot tougher. Bankers like Countrywide's David Wolfenden are wary of the apartment market, which he says is showing speculative signs.
I stress it's not major, but if we don't learn the lessons of the mid-80s, then we're likely to repeat them again.
What about the concept itself of inner city living? Is it something that Auckland can accommodate?
My own view is that it is something to be encouraged. It gives the inner city a degree of life. And there is evidence to suggest that Auckland is a long way behind in comparative terms to other cities in the world of inner city living. But it's what is the market, what is its value, and where is it going to settle? Those are the questions we're really grappling with at the moment.
So do you think we'll get a good view up here?
We'll get an excellent view.
See a few of your developments?
All of them. All of them from up here, although you mightn't get the Santa Fe in front of my...
Former media man Alan Rutledge is the spokesman for the Herman Group, developers of Hobson View and several other projects.
So we're now on the floor, the future floor, of the 12th level of the Hobson. Over there we can see Lord Nelson Apartments, which we're just completing. People are starting to move in and we're finishing off the remainder of the apartments as we speak.
And some people out there are saying it's happening too quickly, that it's going to bust.
But this is a desire by the council to have more people in the inner city after, I guess, the motorways have destroyed it. And 30 or 40 years ago, there was 30,000 people living in the inner city. So I think it's, there is a trend element, but I think underlying it is probably the fact that there hasn't been any new inner city apartments built for some decades until of recent times.
So where are the good views from? Is it from which level? Like...
A lot of the apartments have good views, and obviously the ones down
Developments
here.
like His Majesty's and Key West are aiming for a different end of the market, the serviced apartment. Key West's 160 apartments sold off the plans in days, and as only $5,000 deposit was required, this buying frenzy was seen by some as highly speculative. Asian investors were particularly keen on these projects.
We're selling a number to the Asian market, obviously, both offshore and within New Zealand. New Zealand-based Asians. The figure would be in the vicinity of about 16%.
Those Asian investors were recently warned off the Auckland market by an article in a New Zealand Chinese magazine. The article said returns from apartments may not be all they're cracked up to be. The market for apartments has suddenly become nervous, even for upmarket penthouses like this one in the Harbourview building on Auckland's waterfront. So with some nervousness hitting the market, what effect is this having on apartments up for auction? This is a 3-bedroom penthouse apartment with $1 million view. What's the market prepared to pay for this?
At 6, I'm bid at $600,000. We rate 6, I'm bid at 6, at 600,000. Now 6, I'm bid at 6.
Combined with the neighbouring 2-bedroom apartment, the two together attracted a final bid of...
At $640,000, bidding away, bidding at $640,000.
Before being passed in. It was only a $500,000 view after all. 6 months ago, the 3-bedroom apartment alone would have fetched at least that. The apartment boom is not just confined to Auckland. Wellington and even Christchurch are in on the trend.
Now, this one here, is that unconditional at this stage?
No, we're just in the final throes of negotiation.
Right. Tennyson Apartments is a joint venture between the designer Sunny Wee and a Chinese state corporation, SDV. Formerly a warehouse, 26 of the 28 apartments have sold.
Well, I think the Wellington market is completely different to Auckland. In Wellington, I believe that most of the apartments have been bought by owner-occupiers, and very few actually bought for rentals, and even fewer are bought for speculators or investors who want to flick them on.
The Auckland market is definitely rampant at the moment, Wellington, as usual, is very conservative.
But the Wellington market has also come off the boil, with several projects like the Atrium on Willis now on the back burner. So with the market having cooled off, what does it mean for those who've bought? Gail Patterson believes the growth of Auckland will ensure the long-term value of her apartment.
You've got to face it. Auckland is going to get bigger. The place that they're going to start building is in the city. There's lots of people who want to live in the city because of the convenience.
Julie White was earning $300 a week on her one-bedroom apartment. She now lives in it herself and is confident it is a good investment.
Being very inner city, not on the outskirts of the city, I think it's a good investment. I've had about 4 offers already from just people that are interested in the building, that are interested in buying it off me, but I actually don't want to sell for about 5 years.
A key to the value of the apartments is the rentals they command. Valuer Sean Malloy says when more apartments come on stream, it could produce a drop in rentals and in values.
What advice do you have for someone who's thinking of buying an apartment?
I'd be careful. I think you've got to perhaps wait and see how things develop over the next 12 months.
Even the master salesman agrees the boom is over. He says some projects won't go ahead, but he's convinced apartments are great value.
You won't ever be able to produce these apartments again. It's sort of an economic phenomenon, and with the economy turning again now, it has become prohibitive to have an ongoing supply of these inner city apartments. So, I mean, for my part, I see this market as unprecedented and as unrepeatable.
Agents are always optimists. Rising interest rates mean price falls seem inevitable. The boom is over, but if people hold tight, there need not be a bust.
Michael Wilson reporting there. Next on Frontline, whatever happened to? Our update on some of the stories we brought you this year.